Morning, guys. Welcome back to day 6 of our online sessions. Today, we're gonna be doing another program that covers the trace table topic once again. This one should be a little bit easier than the first one that we did with the calculator, and I think it should be just as easy as the last assignment one, or almost as easy, I should say. So for this program here, go ahead to replit.it/languages/qbasic as usual, and go ahead and type this out. Especially if you're on a computer, go ahead, pause the video here and type out this program. If you are using cell phone, mobile, or iPad, you can still go to Replit and type this out. It's just gonna take a lot longer. So for those of you guys on mobile devices, I would suggest you just continue watching the video and listen carefully as I go through this program so that you can produce the results on your trace table accordingly to the values that are provided, okay? So this is a simple program. If you read what the text says, or what I typed, it says this program produces a letter grade when you enter a number grade. In other words, you feed it a number grade, not so differently than what we do already in schools, and based on the number grade, it produces a letter grade for you. One thing to note is that this program is a more simpler version of the letter grade programs that we've used, or the programs we use to calculate your letter grades. Reason why is because I only cover letter grades only, and when I say only, I mean we're not covering the like A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus, C plus, C minus. We're just saying A, B, or C, and I didn't include these. I just included straight to F. And what this program is doing, going from line 1, you tell the user what this program does. As a little note, this program produces letter grades when you enter a number grade. Line 3, it says enter a number grade. This is the user's prompt. It's asking the user to enter a number grade. On line 5, it's going to store the grade into a variable that we've called grade. Straightforward, relative to what we're doing. And grade is not a keyword used by QBasic, so it's totally fine to use grade as the name for our variable. Line 7 to 15 is where our if conditions get applied. If the grade, we're on line 7, if the grade value, or the number that's stored in grade after the user enters it, is greater than, and then we have the equal sign here, is just to combine a comparison to say if the grade is greater than or equals to 90, then we set letter grade equals A. Note the quotation marks because A is not a number, A is a character, so we must put quotation marks. Before we were setting variables to numbers, and numbers don't need any quotation marks, but in this case we are setting letters, so they need the quotation marks. Another thing to note is if you look at the variable that I chose to store the letter grade in, I called it letter and then uppercase G grade. So it's letter grade, and then note the $sign at the end. Yes, this is actually necessary for QBasic variables to store strings or characters. I had to find that out recently myself. So going forward, if you want to store a character or a string, in other words a sentence, then your variable names have to end with a $sign. And then remember I told you guys that every programming language has a different way it does things. This is one of the nuances, or one of the quirks for the QBasic language, is that it requires a $sign at the end of the variable if you want to store a string or character. Other programming languages don't require this. Sometimes you could just put a variable and just set it to equals and put the double quotes, no problem, but for QBasic it requires the $sign, and that's why we have pseudocode. Remember, QBasic is already a programming language. Pseudocode is one that merges English and code, and that's why we need pseudocode, so that Other languages don't need to worry about these specificities, such as with QBasic, because this does not apply, for example, to C++. C++ doesn't require the $sign at the end of a variable to store a string, right? So continuing on, we have this if-else conditions on a certain order. So we check with 90, which is our uppermost range, right? Anything above 90 is an A. And then if it's not 90, then we check else. If the grade is greater than 80, then that's a B. And it has to follow this order, because if I had put 80 here and put B here, then even if the person got like a 99, it would still satisfy this condition that yes, 99 is greater than 80. So then that means that person got a B. That's not right logically, right? So the reason why we have to have it in order from the largest grade to the lower grade is because any of these lower grades being first would then override the ones following it. So for example, if I had put 70 here first and put C, then even if I had put in 90, it would say, well, is it 90 greater than 70? Well, obviously yes. So it would just go to C. But what about this? What if it's greater than 80? Then it should be B. And what if it was greater than 90 here and you put your A there? Then you'd want it to come here and give the person an A, right? But because you have the order that checks for 70 greater than 70 first, it hits that condition and it goes into that branch instantly. And remember what I said, once it goes into one of these branches, that's the only one it's going to be going into, and then it comes out of the entire structure once the programming or once the branch is finished with its code. And this is the only line here. So once it sets letter grade to C, it's going to produce a C. So if I go ahead and run this and I put 99 and press enter, it's going to tell me I got a C, even though that's not the case. It's because it already satisfied this condition. So the order is very important, guys. You want 90 to be up there, because if it's greater than 90, then it would be an A. But why does this work? If it was 85, then it would not be greater than 90. Therefore, it can properly go into the second branch and check, well, is it greater than 80? And then when we hit this range here, then yes, it's greater than 80. All right, then it has to be a B. It wasn't greater than 90 before because we already checked for that. So that means it can't be an A, right? So that's why it's important to have a certain order when doing this program or these types of programs, where you have to make a comparison from an upper range going down to a lower range. You don't want to start with your lower range depending on the situation, and this situation calls for the upper range to be covered first. Now I have a paint here, sorry. Alright, I have this paint here. I wanted to illustrate the range real quick. So I'm going to draw a line that represents the range of numbers that a person can possibly enter, right? So if we end the range here and we say this is 90, so we're going to say that this is our upper range. This is where our if-else starts. It checks for 90 first. So we start here and we check, is it greater than 90? And if no, then you notice we can go and make the comparison on a lower case. So if you look at the paint, it's going from here, this is the starting point, and it goes and check this part now. Well, is it greater than 80? And notice once it jumps over to this point, it can't cross back over this line because it's already checked for 90, and this was false, right? If we had put in maybe like 85. And then finally the same thing happens again. If it's not greater than 80, then the branch goes down and checks for 70. And of course it doesn't go beyond the line, the limit, because we already confirmed and said, well, it's not greater than 80. So then it stops here, and if even it's not greater than 70 or equals to 70, then it goes and check one more time. But now notice it just says else. Well, we know that it can't check this way above this line to 70. It can't cross the threshold for values over 70 anymore. So else not only checks upwards to 70, but then it also checks all the way down, and let's to negative infinity. And there's no such thing as negative infinity really, but of course in math situations when you were studying graphs and limits, this is what would show, right? So this would check from this threshold of 70 all the way to 0, because this is the else here, and from 0 all the way to any negative number, it will just produce f. So this threshold here is for f, this threshold here is for c, this threshold here is for b, and then this threshold here is for a. So notice the range is here, guys, greater than 90, and we're moving upwards this way. If it's not greater than 90, then we set a threshold, we set a limit, because we checked 90 already and above. So what about 80? Well, we check from 80 and above. Well, we hit 90 and it's still not greater than 80, so we go ahead and check, is it greater than 70? Then again 70 up to our threshold of 80, because again we checked 80 on line 9. And then finally, if it's not greater than 70, well then else it must be an f, because we've checked everything from 70 way to above, because we've already checked these three, 1, 2, 3 and above. And then in this case, I guess you could put infinity here. We've checked this and it wasn't that. So if it wasn't that, then finally we check else, then it has to be an f. It can't be anything else other than an f, because we've checked all qualifiable ranges for C, B, and A. Alright, so I hope that helps. If this doesn't help clarify for you, then don't stress too much about it. I just wanted you guys to get it logically. But if you don't, just understand that if it's greater than or equals to 90, then obviously it's an A. If it's greater than or equals to 80, then it's a B. And if the grade is greater than or equals to 70, then it's a C. If it's not greater than these, then it has to be an F, right? Because anything less than 70, in this case, in this program, is an F. So if you notice, the last thing here now on line 17 is I'm combining quotes and variables, more than once. You guys have seen this already, where we just ended it with the variable. But remember, the semicolon separates variable from text, so we can always mix and match as much as we want. So what this is doing is saying your grade was in text, and then I print out the number grade that the person entered, just to remind them what the number was that they entered. So your grade was 99, this is 99, the grade. And then I close the variable with another semicolon, and then I put a space so that it has a space here, and I put that gives you colon and a space, and then I put the letter grade at the end, C. So if I run this again now with the correct value variables here, and now I put 90, then that tells me your grade was 90, that gives you A. And now if I drop down to 89, it will tell me gives you a B, because 89 is not greater than or equals to 90, so it must be an 80 something, and then it covers the range for B. And then finally 79 should be a C, and then 69, oops, let me stop it. Alright, should be an F, because it's not greater than or equals to 70. So what I want you guys to do now, just like last session, create this trace table. This is your code here. I pasted it again just so you have a reference to the code while you're entering the grades. So if the number grades are these numbers here, I want you to go ahead and give me the answers for the letter grade found here. What are the letter grades for these number grades found on the left? Is it an A? Is it a B? Is it a C? Or is it an F? You guys fill this out, and as usual, save the table. This one is assignment day 6, which is incidentally our last day for this week, and third form. So make sure you go ahead and save your file and upload it on the form, which I'll post in a few. Alright, Alright, so this is the last class for today. Make sure you do this assignment, and again, make sure you upload all assignments by Friday, so that next week I'll begin checking the assignments and see how you guys are doing. I think what I'll do is go ahead and pick the best 3 assignments. So we've done 6, right? 6 days, 6 assignments. Well, technically 5, because the first one was just name and class. So 5 assignments. I'll pick the best 3 out of them, right? I'll be a little bit understanding due to the whole online environment. Some people might not get the previous assignments. Just make sure you have 3 very well done assignments, and I'll select those 3 out of the 5 to grade or to collect on, right? Alright, so that's the video for today. Make sure again you go ahead and upload the assignment, and as usual, stay safe, sanitize, stay at home. I think the news said that it's gonna stay shut down till the end of April, so I'm not sure what's gonna happen on those 2 weeks after Easter. I have to wait on the administration to let us know if we continue the online sessions or do something else. But I'll post up on the classroom if anything changes, and if we do have to continue for those 2 weeks, then we build on day 6, then we go to day 7, 8, 9, then 10, 11, 12 for the other 2 weeks, right? So that's the plan. Make sure you do the assignment once again. Thanks for watching, and see you guys. All right.